Okay, welcome to the afternoon for Tuesday. We got budget stuff, so I'll just turn it over to Kathy and let you go.
Okay, so the first thing on the agenda is to talk about the revenues and expenses. And so you have a summary sheet and it has like a little blue heading at the top.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So I'll walk you through where we're at right now on everything that's in Budget Boss. So I'll get right there. No, lots of discussion. So I brought you some popcorn today to keep you energized, ready for the show. So I'm showing you our revised 2025 budget. And then we have the 2026 budget and the 2027 proposed budget. And the first section is our revenues. And this lines out our different categories that we traditionally report on. Mirrors how we report in the financials as well. So you have taxes, which is our largest revenue stream, and that includes your property taxes as well as your sales tax, timber tax, things like that. So we're showing a pretty consistent revenue stream from that of 33 million, and for 2024, 2027, 34 million. So anyway, so bottom line on the revenues total is 63 million for 2025, 61.9, almost 62 million for 26, and similar number for 27, 61.9. We have the expenditures, and this is just general fund, if I didn't say that, but it's just general fund we're talking about right now. We have our expenditures for personnel, which is our largest expense, which we're showing for 2025, 46.9 million. We're showing for 2026, 46.4 million. And we're showing for 2027, 48 million. Some of this is, I need to figure out why it went down. I'm looking at this and going, okay, it went down about $500,000. I'm not sure, so I'll have to look back at that. But on the supplies, we've got a little over 2 million. We're being pretty consistent. Services pretty consistent with 21 million, 22.9 million. As far as debt service, it's 2.6 for 25, 2.6 for 26, and 2.6 for 27. Capital, we went down a little bit from 1.3 to 736,000 and 761,000. Transfers, we've got 2.7, and we've got transfers for the next 2 years budgeted 3.2, basically. So then this is where it comes in interesting. We have to put our beginning fund balance and our ending fund balance in. And for 2026, I'm projecting, because in our budget, we were very conservative on what we put for the ending fund balance. So I looked at the 2024 financial statements. We were at a little over 19 million. I projected in what we're going to activities for 2025 based upon the budget. And I'm saying that for 2026, we'll start off the budget with an 18.2 million beginning balance. But because our revenues are less than our expenses, you can see the difference there, 77 million for expenses and basically 62 million for revenue. we're budgeting to bring that fund balance down to 5.2 million, which right now, the fund balance that we have in budget stabilization and a couple of other accounts that are part of the general fund when we do our financial reporting, they are a little bit over, they're this 5.2 million. So I'm negative right now on balancing the budget by almost $2.4 million. And then for 2027, because I'm projecting that we will probably, we'll return some money to beginning fund balance that we typically return funds every year. And I'm projecting that we're actually going to be at $8 million deficit for 2027. So I put together some suggestions. They're just suggestions at this point. So I took the original expenditure budget and I have just listed a couple of suggestions. So are you ready for me to go over those suggestions and dive right in?
What's the, remind me what the auditors, I know they like 30 days. We would like to keep it at 60. What's that dollar figure?
That's actually on the bottom of the page. It's
Okay.
kind of in a green color.
6.2.
Yeah, we're calculating that based upon getting my budget back in balance and taking some reductions, that 1 month of the 74,630,000 is equal to the $6 million
Okay.
that we'd want to keep in fund balance.
So I guess I'm gonna play catch up here. I'm looking at your ending fund balance in 2027 at 5.4. Is that correct?
Yes. Mhm.
So when you say an 8.1 deficit, you're talking about the difference, but we're not at 8.1 negative balance at the end of 2027. We're looking at a 5.4.
Right. We actually have 5.4 in specific funds. That's the budget stabilization. There's a benefits fund that they count as part of the general fund. And then, but when you look at the 8 million, the 8.1 million is the difference between the 80 million expenses and the 62 million of revenues. That's what the 8 million is.
And the 6.2 at the bottom of the page, 1 month expense policy compliance, that's all that is expected of us for maintain our bond rating?
That's all that's expected of us for our financial policy. That's what's in your financial policy for the county. What they like to see is they like to see at least 2 months. I know that the auditors, when they're looking at, they want 2 months worth of reserves on hand. And so this is 1 month according to our policy.
Okay.
Of course, this budget, like I said, when you look at 2026, it's assuming that you expend everything that we budget, that we traditionally budget. And assuming every position's filled, things like that. So anyway, so I'm proposing some actions that we need to take to try to get the thing in balance. And so I'm looking at that 2.395, but I'm also looking at trying to make sure that we have enough to cover a 1 month's reserve when we produce these financials.
I see why you brought us colored popcorn.
Yeah, colorful. Yeah, so I'll I'll just run through them and then we can circle back and talk about each one of them. But the first item that I'm recommending, some of these are one-time action items. Some of them might be recurring, and so I tried to spell that out. When I think I mentioned this once before, but on the IT billings, our IT reserve account is over 5 million. I believe that we could, on a one-time basis, utilize some of our reserves to supplement our operations and basically reduce all of our general fund billings, reduce everybody's billings basically to the tune of about 1.5 million, but it would affect the general fund about $1 million. Then currently, I have in the budget, when we returned those two sheriff positions, the mental health positions, I returned them to general fund. I didn't put them on the opioid fund. But in talking with Gina, I believe these would qualify for the opioid fund if we wanted to move them over. And so I put that down as a move that we could move them off of general fund and put them to opioid funds.
Well, I
thought we
was
did.
pretty sure we already agreed to that.
thought we did.
Yeah, and so for some reason, I had it mixed up in my mind that we were approving them, but I just put them on general fund. So in the numbers that I'm presenting here, they're in general fund, so I'll move them out. Then I also looked at things like I do with IT, where we looked at, okay, in the previous year when we did our cost allocations and our billings, we billed based upon a budget, and we billed based upon every position being filled and things like that. And so I looked at our law enforcement billings, which we receive about, on that one, I think we receive 75% of the billing. And in 2024, their revenues, their billings exceeded their expenses. And so they actually banked into their fund balance about $160,000. And so my recommendation is to do just like we do with IT, to look at what you did in the previous year, what you billed everybody, and did you overbill and return those funds to the departments in the succeeding year. So I would look at law enforcement billings and look at reducing the billings, and that would affect our billing as well as the city billings that are done for the Spillman records or for the services of the law enforcement records. Then I mentioned this one, I think yesterday, when I moved the drug court positions to opioid, I didn't move their associated IT cost or their risk management cost. And so that would amount, as well as once I move the sheriff's office over, I would move their corresponding internal service billings over to the opioid fund, which is about $69,000. And I just started looking through budgets, and so it's not that I have any ownership or whatever of looking at this, but I looked at things that were pretty large expense, and so the transfer that we're doing for the equipment for the sheriff's fund, it's $330,000 annually out of the general fund. And so I'm recommending that we look at, could we reduce that and just lengthen the amount of time before they do refreshes, things like that. And that's $56,000. Also spoke with Jessica about our new medical program, our new medical plans. We believe that we will have some savings for the general fund on that. It's anywhere from 100,000. I used 200,000. I was trying to be conservative, but I needed a little bit more money to get my 1 month reserve up. So I'm using 200,000 for that. It's not built into the budget yet. Then there's open positions. I gave you a list of open positions that we currently have on general fund. I'm recommending that we look at that and we take a hard look at it and we maybe make some decisions to eliminate 2 open positions on that list, possibly to reduce our budget. So that's about 100, I just did an estimate, $180,000. Then again, I looked at some trends and things like that on expenses, and we did this for all of our departments. And I believe that the sheriff's overtime that they have budget, they have almost 700 and, I can't remember the exact number, but it's 736,000, something like that. And so I looked at their trends. They have never had overtime that high. And so I'm requesting it being reduced based upon the trends to about 100,000. The most they've had was 2024, and it was about $556,000. And so I feel comfortable with this.
Did they up it because of Superior Court using that little jail
that-
court?
That's a different, that's a
was separate.
separate line, and that one they did increase, which that was approved. And so that's under a line called court services overtime or court security overtime. It's its own line. Now, that one alone is $225,000.
Right. Remember it well.
We support the Expo Center, and I want to support the Expo Center, but it's one of our larger transfers out to an operation department. And so I looked at that, and I'm recommending that maybe we could reduce that by 50%. They do have a fund balance. I know this would hurt, but I'm just looking for anything and everything that I can.
What do we mean we support them? We send them money every month?
Yes, we send them once a year. We send them $125,000.
Once a year?
A one-time transfer every year.
I thought that department ran like a business.
Yeah, that's what I
They do.
think.
They're
I
in
look
the-
at their
they're in the
financial reports.
They're in the enterprise funds, and they do receive a transfer in supplement to support their budget, $125,000.
How long were we doing that? I'm guessing we probably maybe at the start. It's probably been,
No, yeah.
they probably needed it at the start, but
Not panned out or not finished or come to fruition yet. The RV Park,
probably.
yeah, that's actually in their fund balance right now, but yeah, so
Thing though, when I see their budgets and they've been solvent, so I don't.
there's, yeah, so anyway, so that's one of the reasons I'm recommending maybe there's a way we can reduce the reliance on the general fund there.
So is their solvency dependent on those transfers?
No. Not from what I've seen, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But is that because they set aside money for projects that didn't get finished?
I see their operations from events and stuff like that, and they're solvent.
Mhm.
They have the expo center budget, conference center budget, they're two separate budgets, so because they're on fund. So, I mean, the conference center is all the events that happen. in
Yeah.
that Building, the expo is the outside, the arenas, farms.
The fair. Mhm.
So where does this money go when we transfer it?
Expo center, outside grounds, help with the outside, not inside the conference center.
I guess, I just want my concern to be that this isn't gonna jeopardize their solvency, where this goes.
I don't know. I haven't talked with Kim about this. This is all stuff I've put together in the last
Okay,
probably 3 days.
okay.
She's probably watching.
Yeah, so I wouldn't want to jeopardize any of our operations, but I'm just looking for anything and everything to help me get this
I
balanced.
appreciate it. You're doing good.
So on that note with jeopardizing, Kathy, can you help me understand if we reduce the transfer to the sheriff's department by 17%, how is that going to affect what they're saving that money for?
Well, they're starting that fund out very healthy. It has 900 and something thousand dollars.
Okay.
And so I felt like they're starting off on a good foot and they could look at possibly either lengthening the time before they replace certain things, or they could also look at making it up later in the future, increase in the transfers later. Because I'm showing this as a one-time. I'm not showing it as a permanent.
Yeah.
Permanent item, just a one-time. Okay, next one. I went back and I looked at, our industrial accident or workers' comp fund. And last year, we didn't bill enough to cover all the claims. But every year, just about every year prior to that, we billed enough to cover the claims that were made and to have a little extra. So we've been putting money aside for several years. And so I feel comfortable that we could reduce the billings for one time by 200,000 for the industrial accident and draw down our fund balance a little bit. So that's assuming we don't have any major issues. I left a little bit of fund balance. I don't want to drain it dry, but I felt like we probably could get away with 200,000. I did the same thing for the Department of Emergency Management. I looked back at their billings for 2024 and did they bill more than their expenses? And they did. And this is the portion, on this bill, we received 50% of the bill, and then the cities and receive the other portions of the bill for emergency management. So again, that's a one-time recoup some of the savings from 2024 and push it to 2026 to reduce the billings for DEM. That's 45,000. And then this is just a placeholder to go back and, I mean, I really think we still need to scrub the budget and still need to, lots of departments reduce their budgets, did great things in looking at things and trying to reduce, but I still need some additional savings to make this all work, and so I need about $500,000. And I think just re-looking at everything, we might be able to do that. I might be able to make some recommendations specifically, but I just put a placeholder right now for that.
Ready for questions?
Hmm?
Are you ready for questions?
I am ready for questions.
First, I may be wrong, but at my recollection of moved the two sheriffs to mental health is that they were on mental health and they asked to put them as permanent, and not, and to remove the mental health tax. I think this is putting them back there, but I don't think we already agreed to that. I think that was exactly the other way around in our discussions with the sheriff's office. So we can go to check on that, but my number one concern is this is all a one-time, short-term fix.
Yes, and so I have some more recommendations for longer term fixes too. So these are most, almost, as you can see, I've tried to identify those things that might be reoccurring, those things that would be one time. And this is to get 2026 in balance. Most of them are one time. I recognize that we need to make some significant changes to long-term because my 2027 budget right now is out of balance. And so the next page that you have attached to that has some additional items at the bottom of the page for future. They're not things that can be undertaken in the next 60 days. They're things that really require a lot of thought and implementation. And so, I mean, one is you could in the future do a road levy shift. It's not something I recommend, but it's something available to you. It's a tool. I put down $2 million for that. You could also institute the brand new, and I don't know if I have the title right, but it's a criminal law new sales tax. It's 0.1%. And you could implement that in 2027, specifically to help cover increased cost of our sheriff's area. It is also available for the position that we added, for example, in Ian's shop for public defenders, because it is criminal and law. So if we were to implement that, assuming we meet all the requirements, because that's the other thing that has to be done, is you have to make sure that you meet the requirements of that tax to implement it, and that would bring in maybe about 2.8 million. Those would be reoccurring. And then another one would be looking at hiring freezes, reduction in force, where you would study that, you would do an evaluation and implement that for 2027. And that's, I'm recommending $2 million. So I really believe you need about 2, 4, 6, you need about $7 to $8 million of reoccurring type expenses. I put for the road levy shift one time. I don't know, you can do it one time. You can, you've done it before for several years, but I understand that it's a bit confusing for the citizens when you do it and then you take it away and shift it back.
What is a road levy shift?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Emily to assist me on that. It didn't happen during my time, but I understand that it happened back in 2020, 2021, and 2022. And 23 was the year we did not take a shift. Okay, yeah.
So the shift though is taking capacity from your road levy and shifting it to the general fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on, I just
I-
don't like talking into it.
Yeah.
So basically,
Taxpayers are paying money for roads and we're taking it for something other than roads.
so it's not quite that simple. because you
It's pretty
shift-
Simple.
You shift the capacity, right? And this is where I talked to Kathy that it's not my job to decide whether you guys do a shift or not. My job is to try to make sure you guys are as educated as possible on how that impacts the taxpayer, right? So when it's at the road fund, only the people that live in the Cowlitz County outside city limits area pay into the county road fund. Everybody in Cowlitz County pays into the general fund. So let's say you have $2 million that you shift that capacity from the road fund into general fund. Everybody in the county's taxes go up a little bit because that $2 million is spread across everybody in the county. But when you stop doing the shift and you shift it back, that capacity back to the road fund, you're dividing that $2 million over far less assessed value. So the people in the county outside the city limits, their taxes go up when you shift it back. When you shift it to the general fund, theirs goes down and other people's goes up. So again, I'm not swaying you one way or the other as to what you guys want to do. My, I guess, request would be to just keep in mind the impact of shifting it around and how that impacts the
So,
taxpayers.
so when you give the people living in the county the reprieve from their taxes, because their taxes are gonna go down, does it go back to what it was before, or does it go to current assessed levels? Do you understand what I mean? So like, if in the county they were paying 13 cents for every 100, it gets spread out across the entire county now, and it goes down to 7.
Mhm.
When it goes back to the individuals in the county, does it go to 13, or does it go to whatever the current assessed value of the properties are?
Well, remember, those are two different things. So the amount collected goes back to them, but their assessed value isn't determining what gets collected, right? So based on whatever their assessed value goes, let's say my house was paying 10 cents a thousand, but my value went up and now I'm paying 8 cents a thousand. I could be still paying more than I was before because my value went up. So you can't look at it that way. But yes, the shift goes back. And so basically they're going to have to pay the same amount they were paying before. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily an increase in what the tax was previously. It's just they got a reprieve because you shifted it,
Right. But they don't remember that.
right?
Right. So,
I didn't.
right. So they're looking at last year's and they're looking at this year's and they're going, my taxes went up. They're not looking at 3 years ago, it was this, and then it went down a little bit and now it's going back up again. So it's just confusing to the taxpayers. And so I would say more consistency is better for the taxpayers than we need a money grab this year and we're going to do this, or like over here, we're going to do it. It just, I guess, be more strategic and consistent with how you plan to fund rather than emergency grabs.
Is there a time allotted that you can do that? Is there a specific time that says you can only do it for 3 years, 5 years?
I
I
don't
mean-
think so. I don't believe so. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's like a limit to it.
So why wouldn't you just leave it that way indefinitely?
Well, so I think
Opposed to saying-
listen, we had extra revenues and then the road fund said, hey, we've got all these projects that we have on the table. We need the funds to do the projects. And so that's why I believe we stopped doing it, is to give them the funds to do the road projects that they had tabled.
Which is why they got such a large balance right now, is because they've got so many projects on the books
Yep.
that aren't done, but they got the money to do them.
Yep.
Well, that was gonna ask you that question also, Kathy. If I remember right, they were well within what they felt comfortable with the projects, but they had about $1 million left in their surplus. They did, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and, because I didn't see
They,
that. on
they
here.
have a threshold they don't like to go below, and I understand it. And it's also dependent upon the volume of their road activity too, because you want to have enough cash flow, particularly if you have those projects where you're getting reimbursed. So that's what Sean was referring to, that they have a threshold that they like to keep it at a minimum.
And I remember that. What's,
Road washout.
get reimbursed. So that's
Right,
why it's not
yeah,
on here.
FEMA's particularly slow on paying.
Is that why you didn't include it in here as a one-time? Because if I remember right, they had $1 million above and beyond what they wanted in their,
Yeah, but it's the road fund, so I'm not.
you can't use it, okay.
I'm not
Okay.
trying to transfer dedicated funds from road to general fund. I'm not doing
As I
that.
say, I think that's also the clarification, is this has to be part of the levy process. This
Yeah.
isn't just we're taking funds from one fund and putting them somewhere else. You have to decide before I process levies that you want to do this, because we calculate this in, as I said, it's the shifting of the capacity to you guys, not shifting of funds. So they will be able to collect less capacity than they did before. We're not taking the funds we collected for them and giving them to you.
Right.
We're going to shift that capacity and allow you guys to collect those funds.
Say
Right.
that again, shift that capacity and what?
We're shifting the ability to collect the funds from them to you. So they
Right.
will have the ability to collect less and you will have the ability to collect more, but we are not taking funds from them and giving them to general fund. It wasn't funds paid by their taxpayers and giving them to the general fund for everybody. It would be the general fund taxpayers that pay that allotment. Is that, I don't know how else to.
Yeah.
Because so you have, think of it this way, you have taxpayers in this area, and then you have taxpayers in this area. General fund, everybody pays. Roads, only the people outside the paper pay. And so it's really a different group of constituents, right? And so we wouldn't want to take money that these people paid to pay for things that these guys are receiving. We would just shift that capacity and have everybody pay for it.
So much as I hate to, I don't want to talk about increasing taxes, but I want to get past a major hurdle I'm having here. This feels like on the short term, we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And that on a short-term basis, if we shuffle funds around to cover a known shortfall, ultimately, is that going to impact us and make it so we've got to raise taxes higher later rather than facing it now? Are we just dodging a bullet? Because if it's a matter of sliding money from one fund to another and back and forth to balance the books today, and knowing that we're on a declining revenues,
Mhm.
then
The revenues are pretty stable, but that's the problem. The revenues are stable
Increasing.
and not growing at the same capacity as our expenditures are
Ex-
growing.
exactly. And I'm personally,
Right.
I'm uncomfortable with only 30 days of
Reserve.
reserves. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway,
I will say, not to like blow up Kathy's world, but I think she's done a great job with trying to give you guys ideas of how you guys can save
I agree.
expenses here. But at the same time, quite a few of us participated in a brainstorming session on how to help you guys save money. And there's a whole lot of ideas that are not on this list of ideas that the leadership of the county came up with to try to help save money. And I would like to see you guys push into that a little bit. Like as an example, I don't remember if Tracy will remember the numbers, but the amount of money we're paying for landscaping is a pretty significant figure. And wasn't it the road crew people that were saying that they could have work crew?
Pull that
Like,
microphone a little closer to you, please.
I don't, my
Yeah,
point is,
I did so several months ago, after we had those retreats, I did share all the items. I compiled, I think it was about a 5-page front and back document of all the items that came out of that meeting.
I'm just saying, I think we should push for efficiency and try to find other ways. You have great resources within the leadership of the county with really great ideas. And I think I understand you're gonna have to do some cuts and you're gonna have to do some things here. But before you say, okay, we're doing a hiring freeze and we're gonna cut all these positions, let's really dive into how to save money as a collective group and use all of the resources that we have. Because I think we can really save a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's partly and tagging on to that, that's partly why I recommended that you take the time and you implement those things. You look at them in 2026. You do some one-time things that you have available to you, pull some levers, they're one time. But then you take the time and invest in researching and looking at some of the bigger picture items for solving the budget deficit. And doing that in the first quarter of 2026. So you have plenty of time to implement them and make decisions. That's just my recommendation, not to do anything too hastily.
Hey Bailey, Savannah's raising her hand. Is there a way to allow Savannah to talk? Thank you.
Thank you. I jumped on late. I got a couple phone calls that you all were discussing the road shift. I'm only here to provide maybe some historical, context and how much was shifted previously, kind of what's changed and why the shift stopped. And then if you guys had questions. I know Susan's on, maybe not as a panelist, and so is Sean. So yeah, I just jumped on to provide information if needed, is all. So. No questions. Okay, I'll disappear.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not recommending the road levy shift right now either. I'm really recommending that you use 2026 to really look at the things that you could do that are long-term, or at least semi-long. I consider that one, if you do a shift, it could be semi-permanent, I don't know. But I'm just evaluating all of your ideas and things that, like I said, like Emily said, we had a whole list of different things that were brought up during those workshops. But some of them require research and planning to make them happen.
Not to stress you guys out, but there are some of us that have been through this before with the county when the budget was really rough and we didn't have funds. And there are things that we have utilized in the past that I'm not saying you guys should do them, but things like furloughs and whatever have helped in the past. Just putting, again, brainstorming all options to put on the table to give you guys ideas. There's a comment.
Did something, it was Katrina. Oh, there.
It went away.
I think it said the shift was 3.2 million.
I said, I think Savannah said if you guys have questions regarding what the shifts were and everything, she has all that data that she can share live. I didn't bring it with me because I wasn't prepared to talk about the shift per se, so.
Yeah, and the shift's regulated by law, so it's not like we can arbitrarily, and I'm sure Kathy may have already described that or has that information, so it's specific to a certain number and that's based off of a formula. So it's they're not just arbitrary numbers. It is, I think, dictated, and maybe I saw Katrina commented that she had all the numbers, but there's a kind of a formula on how that works, if that's the direction the board wishes to pursue.
Yeah, I just put a placeholder. Like I said, those are all, that was, in my mind, that was something you wouldn't do this year, that you would evaluate it in lieu of everything. And it's possibly an item for 2027. You ready to come back to finance?
Commissioner Tracy Jackson. We've also done a couple other things in previous years. I know the last 3 years, the commissioners chose not to take the 1% that we could increase the our taxable amounts by. And that's been banked. I know that is, we can only increase our revenues per se by 1%. And those have been banked because the board at the time did not want it to push that onto the taxpayer. I understand that, but when we're talking people to service our community and our taxpayers at our counters versus maybe laying off and for general fund especially. That's something to consider. Also, if you look at the fund balances that our Deborah's office keeps and sends them out almost, I believe, weekly. Thank you for that. They're fantastic. There's a lot of departments that have quite a large fund balance that are not, I'm just not talking roads. There's many. I mean, IT used to function on about a $2.5 million budget in total budget between their operating budget and their reserves, and now they have about $10 million in there, or close to 10, I think, at the time between the two funds.
Yeah,
And I
right.
know a lot of their expenditures come at the end of the year, but that is I mean, there's just one example of there's several different, and that we all contribute into and it gets passed around. So there are many funds like that that we could probably, to me, easily look at and without touching people, but touching maybe just internal functions. I know people fight for their employees tooth and nail, and usually general fund positions are the front counters and the taxing office, the licensing office, the courts. And so those are gonna be the ones that get hit. So I'd prefer not to touch people and to try to look for ways to reduce fund balances and just save those costs amongst general fund departments. We did come up with a ton of ideas,
Yeah,
and
we do.
I just don't know that it's not Kathy. I mean, we all need to get back together and work through these. I think honestly, we could probably come up with some pretty good savings in the next even couple weeks.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
So included in this were the $2.7 million worth of reductions, but also included, which may not be popular either, but it's also including additional revenues for the levies. And that's the next item that we have on the agenda, is to talk about the levies. And that, when I put that in, it is on the general fund, taking the banked capacity and the 1%. So when I restated the new budgeted revenue at 62,659, that includes taking our highest lawful, they call it highest lawful levy, plus the refund levy of about $79,000, for a total of $22,095,466 for our general fund. Yeah. Do y'all want to move on and talk about the levies?
Sure.
Sure. Okay.
Educate me.
Okay. So on the levies, we start off with receiving from the assessor's office excuse me, I'm going to take a copy here. We start off receiving the preliminary estimate of what the highest lawful levy calculation is. And that's also based upon a preliminary assessed value for collection, which is $20,435,000,000 right now, is what the preliminary number is. I think if I'm correct, the numbers will be finalized towards the end of the first week of November, somewhere in that range. And so then they usually go up a little bit they can go up or down, I guess, based upon the state. There's a line for state assessed value. which we have 0 right now on that. We also have the construction allowance for new construction. It's part of the highest lawful levy calculation, as well as the refund levy can be added to the highest lawful levy when we make the decision on that. So, based upon that, I did a calculation on the legal size paper for you, looking at 3 different options. And so the first option is taking the highest lawful levy, which includes your banked capacity, your 1%, as well as the new construction. And that would bring in a little over $1,082,000 over what we previously levied, the certified levy prior year. Then they calculate what that actually equates to as far as a dollar increase, because they take off the new construction when they calculate the dollar increase and the percentage increase, because our resolution has to have this information. And so you can see that would make the levy to certify $22,016,446. You would add the refund levy to that of $79,020, and you would end up with a certified levy of $22,095,466. This amount, just to remind you that on the current general fund levy, it's split up into 3 pieces after this levy is approved, and it's split up to a portion that goes to the Veterans Relief Fund, and it's in the range of 1%. It's about 1% of the number, and then there's also there's a portion that they call mental health, and I believe that's for disability programs, and that's typically runs about 400-something thousand annually. So not all of this would go into the general fund, but the majority of it does go into the general fund. So that's option 1. Option 2 says that you can take the banked capacity, the new construction, but not the 1%. It's just, and that's approximately $200,000 less than option 1. And then option 3 is no banked capacity and no 1%, but the new construction of $355,000. And that's the option that we've taken the last 2 years. We did this option for 24 and for 25's levies. So those are explaining the 3 different levies options.
How many permits for new construction did we have last year? Do you know off the top of your head that this would be applied to?
It's not,
Oh, so it's.
it includes cities. And that number is pretty consistent with prior year. It's been in the range of 287,000 to 300. So
Were there big projects that would have skewed that number?
Also when they have,
Off the freeway?
it open to show, yeah, I don't know. But in defense of that, there's usually some big project taxes, right? So there's usually West Rock's doing something or Warehouse is doing something. or the board, like, there's usually something that is a bigger project. The land has been going very guns. Everything down for, but you have to think, it's only assessed value on exempt properties. So, like, if you guys were to build a big structure, then it's not gonna contribute to value.
Is port property exempt? Is port property exempt?
Well, look at roads. Roads is a very, it's similar. But as Emily was saying, this is, preliminary assessed value. It's $11,248,000,000. So it's quite a bit lower than the, preliminary assessed value for the general fund. And the highest lawful levy calculation here would be $14,924,573. And that's before the refund levy, which is $51,028. This too has new construction. And that's bringing in an additional $287,314 allowance for new construction into the calculation. And our prior year levy for this one was $14,428,444. So this one, as opposed to the general fund, does not have a lot of banked capacity. This one has a very small amount of banked capacity, about $64,000 basically. So the highest lawful levy, option 1, would bring in an additional $496,129. And then adding the refund levy of 51,000 to that number. So that would bring the total up to $14,975,000 and $14,975,601.
What is, where it says less NC allowance? What's that?
Oh, new construction.
Oh, new
NC is
construction.
new construction allowance. They, when you're doing the resolution, it's not inclusive of those allowances. So they want to see the numbers that you're certifying for your levy without the new construction. So that's the 208,815. And that would result in a 1.45% increase. As opposed to when you did the same thing on the general fund, which had a lot of banked capacity, that number was a 3.47 number because of the banked capacity was in the number. So road fund's pretty straightforward. It's again, the 3 options. You can do the highest lawful and add the refund levy for a total certified amount, or you can do an option 2, which is no 1%, but you take the banked and you take the new construction, which results in a smaller increase of 0.44%. And then you can take no 1% and no banked and just the new construction. And you see that one doesn't affect your percentage because they back out new construction. So So anywhere from a 14.7 to a 14.9 in certified levy. So I'm looking for direction of what you would like me to do on our budget.
And these are annual, correct?
The levies?
Yeah.
Yes, they're an annual process of certifying your levies. And RCW says that we have to have those to the assessor's office. I think the ruling is November 30th. But for the county, we have a little bit longer. Not much, but a little bit longer. So we have to finalize the levies by the end of November. And so what we
End of November?
end of November, we typically finish those, like, I think this year we've got it slated for, the, I think, November 28th for a public hearing for those. And then that way you're doing those before you submit your budget, because you also, you're finalizing the amount of your revenue that's coming in to cover your budget.
Well, I know that as for me, I recognize that the levies and the criminal law tax and that kind of stuff are probably going to be tools that at some point are gonna have to be utilized to help us long-term. But short-term, I'm not interested in looking at any tax increases on anything until we go through and evaluate all of the options that we have to possibly find some savings and efficiencies within the county. But that's where I'm at.
If we have efficiencies that we can improve, I'm always in favor of that. I'm not sure what the time frame is and how soon we can make that happen. The short-term items that we've listed here, I guess how many of these are permanent solutions, or are we gonna have to go back and correct them later? If we take away now, do we have to go back and replace it?
I mean, any of them are items that could be needed to go back and reevaluate. I mean, you take positions, you have every year, you have the opportunity to take requests for adding positions to the budget. And then, yeah, so all of them in my mind, most of them are like I said, one time I tried to identify, and then even some of the reoccurring, they could be items that, you could cut today and then next year you need to add those 2 positions back in.
Well, the positions, I agree, that's fairly straightforward for me, but like IT billings used to be 2.5 million, now they're 10 million. For a rough example, is that a number that can be permanently reduced? I mean, if we're gonna take $1 million away from them now,
Based upon their expenditures and the level of FTEs they have and the software that they have, I'm saying that $1 million is a one-time. That's bringing their fund balances down and not addressing, making any reduction in their expenses. But that's something that an IT director needs to look at.
I guess that's my point is for example, we've already listened to IT, looked at their budget. And I don't know that, I guess I gotta think about the short-term approach to this. I'm just, I don't know how comfortable I am on a short-term fix that's gonna have long-term effects or may have long-term effects.
Well, I'm sitting here telling you, based upon my experience, you do have to make some hard decisions that are long-term, that are permanent reductions in order to right-size your budget. And that's why I was saying you need, in my opinion, those that are done well thought out and you take the time to investigate them properly. Just like you're saying, I don't want to reduce something and then turn around next year and find out I got to add it back in. So,
Well, spending the time to research it is, we're down to what, a 30-day deadline?
right, right.
Which is why you were suggesting,
That's why I'm suggesting the one-time items and then you take and invest in the workshop that we did where we came up with all these ideas and suggestions and you really look at each one of those and evaluate them for long-term implementation.
You're awfully quiet.
Well, I probably have a different take on the role of government than most of you. Number one, I think we're way too big as it is, and we're afraid to address the real issue that we're a behemoth. We exist because laws come into effect that says you gotta use us for things. It's not that people want to come here. It's that they're forced to come here. And, I just have real struggles to put it on the backs of the taxpayers. We're in a problem because they're not paying us enough. To me, the taxpayers are the productive people. They're the ones that go out and spend in the community. They're the ones that build stuff. We're taking it away from them and putting it to us. What do? We provide programs that in juvenile for 8 people. That's what we do. I would never have a branch that would even exist like that. And we're afraid to make those kind of cuts in government because we think we're all this important. And I just don't see it as that. We're here to protect the rights of the citizens, not to stick my hand as far as I can into their wallet and take every damn penny they have. So I struggle with this stuff, and I get you want this one-time things, and I think we can make some stuff here, but the reality is we're $15 million under. $15 million. You're not gonna do that without touching positions. There's just no way. So I actually, I don't, I don't have any good answers. It's just not a good answer. I will say I've been talking about it for 2 years. Because the handwriting is on the wall, and I blame a lot of it on, our people in Olympia. They've done everything they can to tank this state, with just tax after tax after tax. And how many businesses have we tried down here, and the ecology steps in, and all these little people that don't even work here come out of the woodwork and shut them down. We've done it to ourselves. And I'm very adamant, and I'm not going to put it on the backs of the taxpayers. It's on our backs. But can I sit here and tell you, well, do this, and it's fixed? I don't know that I have that solution. I mean, I could blackline a lot of things and you'd find your dollars, but it wouldn't be a good time. I think hiring freezes need to go in effect, obviously. That's the big expense.
Yeah.
We
Well,
got a
that's-
$77 million budget and 46 of it is payroll. And that's not that different from any place. It's always
Right.
that way. So I'm not saying that's abnormal, but that's where else you gonna cut? I don't know where else you cut. You can do these little things, and unless you can find $15 million in savings in this, in the other stuff. Boy,
I don't think that you can, and that's why I'm saying.
yeah, I'd bow down if you can find that kind of money in other stuff.
No, no, when I started this job in 2023 and did the first budget, I said these exact same things.
I know,
Your
but-
budget is $15 million flip-flopped. You have to do something about this. You can't sustain it. We have by dipping into fund balance. We've dipped into fund balance every year.
And that's the problem. We always had
We have to
that big
stop.
fund balance, and then we were hoping the economy would turn around and things would happen, but you had to read the tea leaves with current leadership up in Olympia. The only thing they're looking for is your money. They're not
Mhm.
looking to do the state. And I think to me, it's criminal because we live in a state with tons of resources. There's absolutely no reason for this. Absolutely none, except we have nitwits that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground up there running this thing.
Amen.
And it just ticks me off. The fix is so easy. You could run up there and anybody with a lick of common sense could fix this in a heartbeat. But we don't have anybody with common sense up there. I shouldn't say anybody. We have some good people in the legislature trying, but we don't have anybody running the big houses and the departments, ecology and L&I and all the other places that just keep coming after you. So I'm getting long-winded here, but this kind of stuff just drives me insane because
Well, in order,
I think your one-time stuff here is certainly reasonable. I think we need to look at some other stuff. Being down, I agree with Commissioner Farrell, being down to 1 month's deal is kind of scary,
it is scary.
even though it's policy. I find that kind of scary.
Well, yeah, even having emergency funds in the road, one major mishap.
Yeah, one major storm,
And we'll
like
be,
Tracy said.
yeah,
But
that's,
And I know it's a big number there and you can see it. I mean, it's there, but a lot of that, if we had to, what if a lot of the projects we have, we have to contribute 10% or I think the biggest one, I think 25, once in a while we cover everything. If we had to cover even one project in total, we'd be done.
and that's the way they've got the system set up. I
Yeah.
mean, all the mandates of here's all the new programs. Oh, by the way, you figure out how to pay for
Right.
it. But you have to abide by the rules, the laws, the codes, and strangle yourself while you're doing it. I guess,
Okay, so when I prepare your levy paperwork, am I hearing a consensus that you do not want to, you want to do option, well, actually, that might be option 4 if you don't, I don't think you have to take the new construction even. So,
if you're hearing a consensus, you got better ears than I do.
well, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm just, yeah, I'm fishing for, okay, I'm fishing for
No.
direction because here's the bad news. I'm taking a 2-week vacation in November, come hell or high water, and y'all won't have me here. And so I have to do all my work in the next 3 weeks. I'm going to a wedding and going to visit my family and to spread my mother's ashes. And I'm not going to be here.
Good
So
for
I really do need for some decisions to be made so that I can complete my work.
Okay,
So I'm all ears.
are there, do you have any concept of any services that we can just outright eliminate? county-wide services, are there any services, either a department or individual issues in a department that can be eliminated?
Hmm.
A lot of stuff, professional services, landscaping, enforcement, security. That stuff is not janitorial, that stuff is not us.
Right.
It's extra professional services monies that could be saved. And that was some of the proposals, that could be done with.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
so for example, the security for this building, if you felt like it wasn't needed, that contract has not been renewed yet. It's in the process for 2026. And just this building alone, it's close to $100,000. Yeah.
Okay, a little louder. That's what?
Yeah, that's a
Count.
fully loaded position is running about $90,000 to $100,000.
So just for background, what initiated that to start with? Why did security suddenly happen?
I think it started when there was a lot of employees that had issues and problems. There was activities that were happening in the parking lot and next door. And, y'all have been here longer.
At the museum, and then we had some nitwit down in the elections,
Yeah.
that had to call the cops on it.
Yeah. So, yeah, so security was instituted, I think, in 2023. Yeah, I think prior to that, it may have been part-time, and then it became full-time for the building. And they do service the museum. They check on the museum daily. They unlock the gates at the expo center. They do a drive-by at the Health and Human Services just to make sure before they come to work that everything's cleared away, that there's no camping and things like that.
So aside from the number, the cost, the expense, how comfortable, you guys all have offices in this building. How comfortable are you to not have security?
You know, I'm not shy for words. So when we had the homeless shelter next door, we never had security. We stepped over people constantly. We dealt with less than choice people on a daily basis. They still continue to sleep outside my window. We just recently got the security. I've been here 27 years. And in that time, the last 2 years, we've had the security here.
23, 24.
In
25.
25. You know, this building coming into it at 6:30 in the morning is no different than walking into any other building around the community. You deal with the community and we deal with it here. It is what it is. I mean, it's in the community, and if it's in the community, it's everywhere. So the biggest cost I think that we thought of saving was in the janitorial. We used to, when we had dire straits and we had budget shortfalls, we took our own garbage outside. We actually took turns. There's a few of us that cleaned the bathrooms. We did I think we reduced the janitorial budget at one time, and we just had them do just the bathrooms a couple days a week, just in the public spaces. The rest of it was completely done within the departments. We vacuum, we clean up after ourselves now anyways. We don't rely on them to come into our offices, so. That's an easy one too, off the top. The landscaping,
$60,000.
yep, it all adds up. Whether it be enforcement, janitorial, I'm all about it. I'd rather do that than lose a person, so.
Yeah,
The security for the Hall of Justice, I don't think you can do away with that because they're doing the bag scanning. And yeah. Yeah, so, and then they bring over somebody from the Hall of Justice since there's no Friday courts right now, they bring them over to this building and do the same thing. So So
Well,
I
I think
think, I think separating, you could separate out this building and not do this building.
I think if there's a silver lining in this, it is that this is gonna force us to run lean and evaluate how we're spending our money and making sure that we're getting the best bank for every tax dollar that we spend for our citizens. Because to Chairman Dahl's point, there's no reprieve in sight from what's happening. The state's not going to stop. And just take our risk pool, for example. They just told us a 38% increase this year, 38% increase next year. And they're taking on more liability in their insurance tower and they're changing our deductibles. That's if caseloads stay the same. That's not happening. So it's gonna force us to do our due diligence to figure out how we can run a leaner machine, which I think is a good thing for the taxpayers. It's not gonna be easy if we have to let people go, but to your point, Tracy, I think we should evaluate every option possible.
Mhm.
And once we've done that, and if it's still not enough, then we're gonna have to look at what departments we can trim down. But for me, I'm not putting this on taxpayers either until we have done what we can absolutely know that we feel comfortable with doing everything that we possibly can. Because until then, I'm not interested in any of the levies or the taxes or anything like that. Knowing that we have department heads in here telling us that they can come up with ways that we can save money. Until we've exhausted those efforts, I'm not looking at that. But your one-time things that you have on here, if that's gonna get us set for 2026, and we can take the first quarter to evaluate all the things that we can do to help us long-term and short-term, I'm all for putting in long days to do whatever we have to do to make that happen.
I know how to run a vacuum cleaner.
Hmm.
And I can
Okay.
take the garbage out. And I'm not afraid to clean toilets,
With one hand?
even with one hand,
Even
even with my
even handicap.
yeah, my non-dominant hand.
So preparing the paperwork for the levy to get it ready, are you,
What did we do last year?
so last year for general fund, we did option 3, which is we took the new construction and then we did take the refund levy as well. And that was the option that we chose last year.
So would that have been
For
option
the-
2?
Huh?
That would have been option 2?
No, it was option 3.
Three.
Option 3 doesn't take the one, it's no 1%, it's only taking the new construction allowance.
It's only putting it on what's being built new in the county.
Right.
I just popped up here to say, one of the things, you're talking about is, with us losing Kathy and if we have hiring freezes, what do we do when we lose a position like that and there's a hiring freeze? Is that something we could still hire? Because it's obviously we can't go without these type of positions. In the hiring someone new, we need someone that's very strong, that's gonna take all these things and look at them and bring these, there's been a lot going on with this budget process right now, and these things that Kathy's saying, maybe we need to discuss next year to move forward, but we need someone very strong that's gonna say, these are the things, because all those items, there's so much to consider, and if you don't consider anything, we're just sitting here going, okay, we're kind of haven't really come up with these solutions, and we're in, almost to November. That's what I'd worry about, like, I don't know how a hiring freeze would work, and when we have key positions that we lose. And we're,
anyway, I just,
Well, can we just implement a hiring freeze whenever we want? Okay.
Well, I guess in
You
my
s-
mind,
you sort of already have a hiring freeze because your HR director comes to you for every position to ask you permission to post any open position. So you already are in, yeah. Okay. Yep, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. You're right.
yeah, to me,
So in that case, a hiring freeze would be hiring freeze for everyone except electeds. Yeah,
to me, a hiring freeze would be if a department head has 10 employees and they have a vacancy for 2 people and they've been running their department okay, is don't fill those 2 positions, just leave them open. But if a department head or a deputy director of one of the departments all of a sudden gets in a car wreck and dies, or suddenly creates a vacancy that isn't, I don't want to say indispensable, but basically it's such an important position that you cannot afford not to fill it. I absolutely agree that even with a hiring freeze, in her absence, we have to fill it. I mean, it's not the type of absence that you can just say, okay, we got a hiring freeze and nobody gets to, we're not gonna move up, we're not gonna, nothing's gonna happen. No, that'd be unacceptable to me.
yeah, the timing of it all with Kathy leaving and, you know, it'd be great to have
you
one
don't
here.
make me feel bad.
But I look at it from this standpoint. If we have to replace somebody, I don't see that as a hiring freeze, that we have to replace somebody that's a key position. From a general budget standpoint, I think that the hiring freeze would impact us more if we also say, you're not budgeting for any vacant positions. You don't have any empty FTE spots that are just sitting there. Everybody's gonna turn them all in. And the hiring freeze is what you got is what you got right now. You're not gonna keep 2 empty positions and then say, oh, I'm gonna give up one of them and I'm giving back to the general fund. No, a hiring freeze is all those empty FTEs come back to the general fund, so we're not sidelining money unnecessarily. And then we're not expanding the departments at that point for whatever time period we decide.
Yeah, what he said.
So am I hearing that you would entertain the being option 3 possibly for the levy?
That's
Doing
so I was
what we
gonna
did.
say, just limited to new construction and not the other. It's what we did last year, and
Yeah, that's what we
I-
did last year.
I could live with that.
Steve?
Well, that's not a new tax, right? I mean, the citizens have already been paying that.
Right, it's the last year's levy plus new construction, which I guess the new construction hasn't, yeah, they'll be added to the tax rolls.
I'm okay with that.
Commissioner Farrell, are you okay with that?
Yeah,
Okay, so that's what I'm gonna bring. And the refund levy, which is an amount that represents administrative exemptions and things like that were done prior year. And then this ability to recoup those funds.
Just to be clear, that amount is amount you guys were allotted to collect this year that didn't get collected. So if somebody went on the senior program or whatever, and we kind of wrote off that amount that was due, this is allowing you to become whole from this year. It's money that you were supposed to collect this year that didn't get collected, so we're gonna allow you to collect it next year. Does that make sense?
Say that one more time.
It's a refund amount of money that you should have collected this year that did not get collected, so you get to collect it next year.
Okay.
It's not additional money, it's
Right.
money that didn't get collected.
Okay.
why did it not get collected this year?
What?
Why did it not get collected this year?
So if you came in and applied for like a senior exemption or something, and we're gonna take those taxes off yours. It's still money that if you had already been on the program when we calculated, it would have been spread across to everybody else. It's just money that the county was entitled to collect that didn't get
Didn't.
collected. Yeah.
It was part of our capacity.
Why it's called the refund.
Then for the road fund, the road funds due at the same time. Last year for the road fund, we took the 1% and the new construction. And the reason there was that we were noting that and being concerned about the fact that we weren't going to have ARPA dollars anymore to put towards projects and things like that. So last year we took the 1%. Am I hearing the same thing? You want to do option 3, which is just the new construction?
So last year they did option 1.
No, they didn't do any banked. They just did the 1%
Okay.
and the new construction, which is actually not even on here, I think. So.
I'm for just doing option 3 again.
So, Rick,
Yeah.
you're for option 3.
Yeah, I think sounds like they were pretty comfortable with their fund balance at this point in time, so.
Commissioner Farrell? Okay,
And
so
could-
the
could
2
we-
will be consistent then with just taking the new construction
Okay,
and the refund levy.
yeah, Katrina has her hand up. She says, I have a cut. Go ahead.
Hi, Commissioners. I think I heard Kathy say that with all her suggested cuts, she still needs to cut $500,000 more to make us balance. Is that the right number you said, Kathy?
Yes, I have that listed as a line item, one time, looking at reducing, just going back and looking at different things like dues, travel, tuition.
But it's
security.
500,000 is what you're looking to cut for the general fund to make us
Yes.
balance just to get us into 26 done and move on to 27 for further discussion, correct?
Right,
So our benefit administration fund takes a general fund transfer in of $300,000 every year. That's to take care of our left one retirees. We could cut that one-time $300,000 and save jobs or people getting laid off for 2026. Now that's pending. I don't end up with 12 of them in full-time nursing care, but that's probably unlikely. Between that $300,000 and the suggestions that have been brought forth of janitorial or landscaping, those 2 or 3 changes right there would give you the $500,000 you'd need. Granted, that doesn't get us into 27 on long-term stuff, but that at least gets us to have the commissioners have capacity to make a decision so Kathy can finish the levy. She can take her vacation. We can get the budget adopted for 26 and 27. We will reevaluate the 27 budget anyway in the June, July timeframe to do a major budget amendment for 27. So that gives us plenty of time from the beginning of the year to June to have the administration staff of all the elected officials come up with some more suggestions for a long-term thing. Also, the road shift, when I was the budget manager, we had a $3.2 million road shift, then a 2.7, then a 1 million. And then that stopped when they brought the landfill into the general fund and that revenue started coming in. We didn't need that shift anymore. So at the time they said that they could raise rates on that and that would also add funds into the general funds. And I don't think that those rates have ever been increased since the first transfer in. So anyway, those are my points to maybe help try to balance the budget. If you have any
Katrina,
questions,
What rates are you talking about being increased? The
landfill rates,
Landfill rate.
landfill rates?
yeah. Because it
We
used to not
We
be,
did increase the
I was
transfer,
gonna say, We just did, yeah.
yeah.
so
but
it
you're
used to
right, it
be
hadn't
a
been
certain
touched
amount we
all-
would get from the landfill.
Yeah, it hadn't been touched for quite a while. So
Correct.
you'd have in your 300,000 that Katrina's talking about, janitorial is 240
240.
a year. Landscape is 60 a year.
And did we ever find out what the courier security contract is per year for admin only?
Oh, just admin only is about 100,000.
So right there would save enough jobs to get us through 26 as is with staffing and
That's-
then,
Those 4 items are 700,000.
Sold.
And the Constitution's got a built-in security system, so we could implement that too.
I would suggest not waiting until June. I would suggest
Mhm.
starting into next week. Happy availability, and we need to start plugging away at this because it's not just something that happens overnight.
Right.
And people come and go, and I think we really need to dig in and start making some permanent, serious things that we live with and we learn to live.
So Kathy, can you put those in there?
Yes, I wrote them down.
Got 'em-
Secur-
You got them down?
Yeah, security, admin, Katrina's talking about the benefits administration account, landscaping and janitorial. So I have those written down to go look at what those amounts are.
Okay.
Come to the microphone, get on record.
Okay, so now that you guys have given her a direction, I want to talk really quick about the abeyance,
What?
the
What?
abeyance money. So
Abatement?
I told Kathy I didn't want her to take this into consideration when she's doing all her paperwork for levies. So because of the settlement money I got, we'll call it settlement money, I am going to reduce the amount that you guys decide to the taxpayers. So I am going to take $383,676.88 off the general fund amount. And I'm gonna take $319,205.75 off of the road fund. So we already have that money collected for those two funds for next year. So the amount you guys approve is gonna get reduced by that amount to go to the taxpayers. So because you essentially approved the same amount they paid last year, they're actually gonna have a tax savings because we're gonna reduce that amount further. Does that make sense?
Not yet.
We collected already that particular property's assessment taxes. And so it's being held in abeyance in reserve. And
So
she'll
that-
apply that and not collect the 300 and.
So
whatever.
essentially, the taxpayers overpaid years ago, and this money's making that right now. So whatever you guys pass and approve,
Mhm.
when that number comes to me, I'm gonna reduce that amount by these numbers and then calculate. So it will reduce whatever you passed by that amount, and that number will go to the taxpayers. But it can't be part of your calculations, or you would be double reducing.
Right.
Right. So I just wanted to point that out, that there will be some reprieve to the taxpayers because of that amount. Okay?
Okay,
I think everything we've kind of talked about should get us down to where, at least for 2026, we would expect to have at least meet policy and have 1 month.
yes, yeah, that's my goal. And then my goal for 2027 to balance is I will I will make sure it balances, but I'm going to put some things in there, very general, you know, increased revenues, things like that.
Yeah, we'll have to work on
And
that.
then you have
day
the
one.
opportunity to, you do amend each and every year's budget. You have the, like Katrina said, we'll start working on your budget for 2027 in June of 26 and start putting everything in Budget Boss. So, yep. You'll have the opportunity to look at it again. So I will work on some of these one-time things too, to make sure that this all balances.
Thanks for your work on this, by the way.
You're welcome.
A lot.
That's my job.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was 60, so it may not be in the budget already.
Okay.
Okay.
So if, on the landscaping issue, if we remove that, where does that leave? Who's gonna cut grass and who's gonna take care of trimming trees and? Okay,
The burden or whatever we want to call it will likely fall to facilities maintenance technicians.
okay,
So people can show some grace in getting on board. We don't have all of the equipment, but we'll get by, we'll make it work. So that will fall to us. Custodial will be difficult. People are willing to jump in and help though, I think, as others alluded, I think we can make it work. So especially if it means no loss of jobs, just if people can be kind and work with us on timing.
okay.
Okay.
Let me think for a second here.
Oh, wait.
I don't have any problem. I can see us picking up the janitorial in this building. How will that affect Hall of Justice? We're gonna do the same thing there?
We would, yes, probably tackle it the same way, probably meet with the different divisions there, which I happen to meet with them weekly anyway. Kind of develop a game plan and see how we want to tackle this. I've heard people kind of step up to the plate and say that they'd be willing to do it for their departments and divisions. Hopefully that doesn't mean delegating other people to do it, but that's not a decision that's up to me. So we'll just work with the departments and try to figure it out. And I can give the board an update as we go.
Okay,
It's a fluid situation moving forward.
Do it.
It's a fluid situation moving forward, like with janitorial and that kind of stuff. We're just gonna have to do what we have to do.
so does the county own vacuum cleaners? Cause I don't think I've seen one come in here since I've been here.
Yeah, my office has one. We have it in the closet and I take it out every once in a while and vacuum. Yeah.
Okay,
She probably rent it to us.
yeah,
I'll rent you mine. Yeah, I'll come back and,
Good news is I have a cleaner. Bad news is you won't like the rental rate. Okay?
okay, that's it.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? I don't know if I can take anything else. Okay, we will adjourn.